Good afternoon, everyone. This is Mike O'Malley here at the Hurricane Outlook and Discussion for June 18th, 2020, recorded around 4:22 p.m. Eastern Time. Well, taking a look here at the latest sea surface temperature anomalies updated as of yesterday, June the 17th. We continue to watch this area right here in the Nino 3.4 and now stretching into the Nino 1 and 2 regions that are rapidly cooling off here and have been over the last several months now. We're beginning to see temperature anomalies now approaching 3 degrees Celsius below the long-term average in spots over here. That's kind of this purplish color right here. This is suggesting very cool water temperatures and sea surface temperatures relative to average across here. This will continue to form and evolve here over the next coming months or so, promoting a likely La Nina state here by the time we get into late fall of this year into winter 2020 into 2021. We are likely to see this area now head in towards a La Nina, and again, it's only a matter of time. It's very pronounced, and we'll continue to see this expand as upwelling continues to occur across this area all throughout here and rapidly expand off towards the west here. Now, in the Atlantic Basin, we continue to see warming. It's been a little bit slower now. We have a strong Saharan air outbreak across this area right now, temporarily cooling and slowing down some of the main development region. But you notice this very classical Phase 1 AMO pattern. Again, you're not really seeing much in the way of any subtropical warmth. There is some that has eroded this cooler layer a little bit. So it will be interesting to see how this transitions over the next couple of months or so, whether that favors more of a warming pattern up here or not. However, currently, most of our warmth is still favored down in this area across here, where with the water temperatures much warmer, much more concentrated in and around the main development region down here, this positive Phase 1 AMO, as we call it. And that's going to be occurring now and really kind of holding a place over the next several months. Again, there is some cooling out here because of a strong Saharan air outbreak and all of that dust, that particulate matter is kind of covering some of the sun, so you're not getting as much of heating down here at the surface. That is causing some reduction in the sea surface temperatures, but again, not significantly at all. And if we take a look here at the upper ocean heat content, we'll just zoom in on this here. You do notice that there is actually some down here approaching in the southern main development region south of the Cabo Verde Islands. There's also a fairly decent chunk here in the western main development region into the Caribbean and southwestern Atlantic basins. A lot down here in the southern tropical Atlantic. And again, these tropical waves that are coming off right now, they will continue to come off at higher latitudes. And this intertropical convergence zone that's sitting right about here will continue to lift northward over the next several months, promoting more and more convection across this area out here and eventually out in this region. And the Saharan air outbreaks will continue to occur further and further to the north, allowing this warmth to warm up down here, these tropical waves to really come off and have a more favorable environment down here as well. But you notice again, and this is just really looking at the how deep does the warmer water go? And again, most of it's concentrated down here in the Caribbean at this moment. But again, there's some out here in the Gulf Stream, stretching down into the Gulf of Mexico and surrounding regions as well. Now, again, we're going to continue to hit home on this, but again, we are now launching our unmanned camera system projects. This has been something in the works for a long time now. Really kind of began thinking about this in 2017. We're finally able to do this. This is going to be able to capture all the raw fury and power of tropical cyclones as they make landfall, so we can not only better understand them, but you guys can stay safe and watch what's going on in real time. These unmanned camera systems will be deployed along the coastline in front of landfalling tropical cyclones. Testing of these camera systems actually begins this Saturday. So if you guys want to follow along what I'm doing, make sure you guys go follow me here on Twitter, Mike O'Malley1, REMALEY1. And again, we are going to be doing some amazing things with that. Again, right now, locally, we're staying locally for this year, but next year and years beyond, we look to continue to carry this project further and further and hopefully be able to reach a lot of people and hopefully team up with some renowned professionals in the field that have been doing this for a while, such as Mark Sudduth. Reached out to him earlier, and we could be on some really good stuff. So again, If you guys want to follow what I'm doing, make sure to go follow me on Twitter, and we'll continue to post updates here on YouTube and on Twitter mainly about what's going on with these camera systems. Now, here taking a look at the sea surface temperatures. This is coming off the CDAS methodology from tropicaltidbits.com. Again, you continue to notice what we've been talking about, the magical 26.5 Celsius line right here. That is where conditions are thermodynamically supportive of tropical cyclone formation. There's some way out here, even up into the Gulf Stream, where water temperatures, again, are running slightly above the long-term average generally in this area throughout here. But again, we do notice that most of the area now is just to the south of the Cabo Verde Islands, approaching there. And we also continue to see really significant warming down here in portions of the tropical Atlantic. And again, this is going to continue to favor the tropics over the next several months or so as we really begin to head into the latter half of June into July. There is some pretty significant indications that the pattern is going to be flipping. The larger scale pattern is going to be changing, and it's only a matter of time now before we really start to kick in and have the tropical Atlantic come to life here. And speaking of that, if we take a look here at the latest 850 millibar vorticity coming from the Central University of Wisconsin Madison website here. Again, as you guys, this is the spin in the atmosphere about 5,000 feet off the ground. And again, as we start getting into this red and whites, that's your more cyclonic spin in the atmosphere there. Again, not really seeing much. There's an area of spin right over Bermuda right now, not really associated with anything tropical. Some little itty-bitty disturbances down here in the tropical Pacific. That's not really causing much of anything, although we'll talk about an area to watch, an area of interest out in the Eastern Pacific Basin here in a second. We also have this strong Saharan air outbreak right now that's occurring over portions of the tropical Atlantic, really promoting any sort of development down there. Although we have a pretty healthy tropical wave down here off and just to the south of the Cabo Verde Islands off the screen there. But again, if you take a look here at the vorticity, this is the latest, or not the vorticity, but the wind shear rather. Again, the wind shear is still pretty strong. There is an area opening up here in the Caribbean. You notice off the Florida coast here, off the Carolina and Georgia coastlines here, you notice about 40 to 50 knots of vertical wind shear, not really supporting any favorability there. The tropical Atlantic is pretty much shut down right now. And you notice a lot of this milky white cirrus clouds that you see back here. This is all that Saharan air. We had a viewer yesterday from Barbados say that there was some Saharan dust in the atmosphere there. So the Saharan air, although most of it's concentrated over Africa in the far eastern main development region right now near the Cabo Verde Islands, there's a pretty significant area making its way into the Caribbean here in the Southern Windwards and Lesser Antilles. This will be making its way all the way up into the coast here of the Gulf Coast of the United States, from Texas to Florida. There's some pretty sunsets that are going to come from this. But again, if you have any problems with breathing, if you have any of those sort of problems, again, you guys want to make sure you're wearing a mask or doing everything that you possibly can, not only because of what's going on right now, but also because the Saharan dust, it can block things out and make it harder to breathe. So if you guys have any respiratory problems, make sure to take that into consideration as well. But again, for the most part, we are generally starting to see the tropical Pacific opening up here, with that wind shear now dropping to about 10 to 15 knots in spots. So that's not too bad, and consequently, there is an area to watch here, only at 20% over the next 5 days. This has been very stagnant. The Hurricane Center hasn't bumped up or gone down with these chances at all, but this remains in the far eastern and then the far southern Pacific, but this is not expected to be any land hazard. At most, if this develops into a tropical cyclone, you might get some waves up here for some of the resort islands along the coastlines here. Maybe Cabo San Lucas as well might get some waves from any tropical cyclones, and I believe there will be one or two that does eventually form as we get a convectively coupled Kelvin wave to pass through this area over the next several weeks or so. That's going to help promote rising air in the atmosphere across this area, and that's going to continue to really evolve here over the next several weeks or so. And if we take a look at the GFS forecast from tropicaltidbits.com, again, we're looking at the 850 millibar vorticity, the spin in the atmosphere about 5,000 feet off the ground. You notice this big high pressure ridge setting up here that's promoting a lot of our African easterly jet to amplify across this region. That is also helping this big Saharan air layer push out here that will make its way all the way out here into the Gulf Coast of the United States, the Lesser Antilles, some of the islands down here, Puerto Rico, the Windwards and Lesser Antilles over the next several days or so. You notice out here really throughout the next 192 hours, nothing really. There's maybe some spots to watch here in the Eastern Pacific Basin. Again, this ridging remains in place across the Atlantic Basin, kind of nudging its way in over here, promoting some strong flow out here. So again, the wind shear is still going to be a little bit too strong. The trade winds are going to be a little too strong for this time of the year, but that's expected. Even a busy hurricane season, so that is expected. And again, it's only a matter of time. And that African easterly jet being as strong it is now really is a harbinger for what could be coming later in the season, promoting these very strong tropical waves, as we've already seen some try to go on and get some tropical characteristics already in the month of June, early June at that. So there's signs that the time is coming to take things really seriously if you aren't already. And just taking a look here real quick at the European forecast model, again, the 850 Vort here. Nothing really much. The European does suggest maybe some tropical activity here developing towards the end of the month, around the 27th or 28th or so, and passing on through. Nothing out here to speak of in the deep tropics at all. Nothing really out here. Again, this big high pressure ridge that's setting up here going to promote strong wind shear across this region, or not strong wind shear rather, but strong trade winds across this area. Again, some cooling is possible within these sea surface temperatures over the next several weeks or so. Again, we are heading towards a very busy season, no doubt about it, and it's time. So it's time to start paying attention. Of course, we will be doing constant updates. If you guys want to make sure and follow along with what we're doing, again, go follow my Twitter there for these unmanned camera systems. Again, we're going to be doing a lot with it. And yeah, it's really some exciting times here. So again, hope you all have a great rest of your afternoon and evening. I am Michael Romali, and I'll see you guys here back tomorrow afternoon. Stay safe, everyone.